Abraham Lincoln. In the summer of 1864, President Abraham Lincoln narrowly escaped death when a bullet pierced his hat during a carriage ride from Washington, D.C. to the soldiers' home. Despite the Civil War raging and facing threats from Confederate sympathizers, Lincoln remained remarkably calm about the incident, reportedly stating it wasn't his time to die. Though investigated, the shooter was never identified, with suspicions pointing to those opposing Lincoln's leadership. In April 14, 1865, President Abraham Lincoln attended a performance of Our American Cousin at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C., just days after the Civil War's end. John Wilkes Booth, a famous actor and Confederate sympathizer, slipped into Lincoln's private box and shot him in the back of the head. After leaping to the stage and shouting, "Sic Semper Tyrannis," Booth escaped but broke his leg in the process. Lincoln was carried to a nearby boarding house where he died the following morning at 7:22 a.m. Booth was tracked down 12 days later to a Virginia barn, where he was shot and killed by Sergeant Boston Corbett. John F. Kennedy. President John F. Kennedy's life ended tragically on November 22, 1963, in Dallas, Texas. While riding in an open motorcade through Dealey Plaza with his wife Jacqueline and Texas Governor John Connally, shots rang out at 12:30 p.m. Kennedy was struck by 2 bullets and rushed to Parkland Memorial Hospital, where he was pronounced dead at 1 o'clock p.m. Lee Harvey Oswald was arrested and charged with the assassination, though he claimed innocent. The Warren Commission later concluded Oswald acted alone, but numerous conspiracy theories persist to this day. Andrew Jackson. On January 30, 1835, President Andrew Jackson survived a remarkable failed assassination attempt at the U.S. Capitol. Richard Lawrence, an unemployed house painter with mental illness, approached Jackson and fired 2 pistols at point-blank range. Incredibly, both weapons misfired. The enraged Jackson immediately charged at his would-be assassin, beating him with his cane until bystanders, including Davy Crockett, intervened. Lawrence, who believed Jackson was preventing him from claiming the British throne, was found not guilty by reason of insanity and institutionalized for life. Ronald Reagan. President Ronald Reagan was shot on March 30, 1981, while leaving the Washington Hilton Hotel. Secret Service agents quickly shoved Reagan into his limousine, but 1 bullet struck him under his left armpit, lodging just an inch from his heart. The severity of his wound wasn't immediately apparent until he began coughing blood. Reagan spent 12 days hospitalized. His assailant, John Hinckley Jr., harbored a delusional obsession with actress Jodie Foster and believed assassinating the president would gain her attention. Found not guilty by reason of insanity, Hinckley remained in psychiatric care until 2016. James Garfield. President James Garfield's life ended tragically after being shot on July 2, 1881 by Charles Guiteau, a mentally unstable office seeker. While at the Baltimore and Potomac Railroad Station in Washington, D.C., Guiteau fired 2 shots, one hitting Garfield's arm and another lodging in his abdomen. Doctors made fatal mistakes during treatment, using unsterilized instruments that caused severe infections. After 79 days of suffering, Garfield died on September 19, 1881. Guiteau was found guilty despite insanity claims and executed by hanging on June 30, 1882. Theodore Roosevelt. Theodore Roosevelt was campaigning for a 3rd term on October 14, 1912, when John Schrank shot him in Milwaukee. Remarkably, Roosevelt's 50-page folded speech manuscript and metal eyeglass case in his breast pocket slowed the bullet. Despite bleeding and with the bullet still lodged in his chest, Roosevelt insisted on delivering his planned hour-long speech before seeking medical attention. Doctors later decided against removing the bullet, which remained in Roosevelt's chest until his death. Schrank, who claimed to have visions of President McKinley directing him to kill Roosevelt, was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia and institutionalized until his death in 1943. William McKinley. William McKinley was fatally shot on September 6, 1901, while greeting the public at the Pan American Exposition in Buffalo, New York. Anarchist Leon Czolgosz approached with a concealed pistol and fired twice at close range. Though McKinley initially seemed to recover, gangrene and infection developed around his wounds, leading to his death 8 days later on September 14th. Vice President Theodore Roosevelt was immediately sworn in as president. Czolgosz was quickly apprehended, showed no remorse, and was executed by electric chair on October 29, 1901. Gerald Ford. President Gerald Ford faced an assassination attempt on September 5, 1975, in Sacramento, California, when Lynette Squeaky Fromm, a Manson family member, aimed a gun at him as he exited the California state capitol. Secret Service agents quickly subdued her, and Ford escaped unharmed. Just 17 days after the first attempt, President Gerald Ford survived another assassination attempt on September 22, 1975. This time, Sarah Jane Moore fired a shot at him as he left a speaking engagement in San Francisco. Ford again escaped unharmed as Moore was quickly detained by law enforcement. Franklin D. Roosevelt. On February 15, 1933, President-elect Franklin D. Roosevelt narrowly escaped assassination in Miami, Florida. Giuseppe Zangara, an Italian immigrant, fired several shots at Roosevelt during a speech. Though Roosevelt was unharmed, 4 others were wounded, including Chicago Mayor Anton Cermak, who later died from his injuries. Zangara was quickly captured and executed by electric chair. Harry Truman. President Harry Truman survived an assassination attempt on November 1, 1950, at the Blair House in Washington, D.C., where he was staying during White House renovations. 2 Puerto Rican nationalists, Oscar Colasso and Griselio Torresola, launched an armed attack to promote Puerto Rican independence. One attacker was killed and the other wounded during the gunfight with security personnel. Truman remained unharmed throughout the incident. Bill Clinton. On October 29, 1994, Francisco Martin Duran fired multiple shots at the White House from a nearby street while President Bill Clinton was inside. Duran was quickly subdued and later sentenced to 40 years in prison for the attack. Clinton was unharmed during the incident. George W. Bush. President George W. Bush survived an assassination attempt on May 10, 2005, while giving a speech in Tbilisi, Georgia. Vladimir Arutyunian threw a hand grenade toward the stage, but it failed to detonate. The attacker was arrested shortly afterward, and Bush continued his presentation unaware of the threat. Barack Obama. In November 2011, Oscar Ramiro Ortega Hernandez fired several shots at the White House, believing he was targeting President Barack Obama. The 21-year-old was quickly apprehended and later sentenced to prison for the attack. Obama was not at the residence during the shooting. Donald Trump. On June 16, 2016, Michael Stephen Sanford, a British national, attempted to assassinate then-presidential candidate Donald Trump at a Las Vegas rally. Sanford approached a police officer pretending to seek an autograph before attempting to grab the officer's gun. He was quickly subdued, and Trump continued his rally unaware of the threat. Sanford later admitted he had been planning the assassination for about a year. Then again, on July 13, 2024, former president and presidential candidate Donald Trump was wounded when a bullet grazed his ear during a campaign rally. The shooter, 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks from Pennsylvania, was quickly neutralized by Secret Service agents. 1 civilian was killed and 2 others critically injured in the attack. This marked the first injury to a presidential candidate or former president in over 40 years. If you like the channel and want more contents like this, please drop a like and subscribe. Thank you, and see you in our next video.